Thank you very much. I'd like to call this March 26, 2019 meeting of City Council of Charleston to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember White. Here. Councilmember Shealy. Here. Councilmember Lewis. Here. Councilmember Mitchell. Here. Councilmember Wagner. Here. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekings. Here. Councilmember Shade. Councilmember Griffin. Here. Councilmember Moody. Here. Councilwoman Jackson. Here. Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And now if you would like to join us, Councilmember Seekings will lead us in a prayer and a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather tonight to conduct the business of our holy city, may we keep those who are dear and close to us in our hearts and join in prayer for those who we miss and will always cherish. Among them, our brother and friend Julian Smith and our sister Ramona Lango. Heavenly Father, make each of us an instrument of your grace. Weave us into a community showing forth your wisdom and tenderness. Bless us all in our differences and support our courage to stand together. We call on you today to gather us in your divine spirit. Lead us as we lead. Protect us and our children, and guide us down that path of truth and justice. In the name of Jesus, let us now put forward and act in the love of God. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I think everyone knows this, but just in case, if there happens to be an emergency and we have to evacuate the building, these two exits to the hallway, do not use the elevator, but go down the two sets of stairs and then the one set of stairs out the front to Broad Street. Very unlikely event, but just so you know. And there's also an exit door from the room to my right. Now, first order is to recognize the state champion 11, 12-year-old all-star team along with their athletic staff. Are y'all here? Would y'all like to join me? Here they come, the state champ. All right. Y'all come on up. Hey, man. We are the champions. Isn't that right? Hey, man, how's it going? Welcome. So this 11 and 12-year-old all-star team first competed in the district tournament in Bluffton, South Carolina on March 2nd and 3rd. During the three-game tournament, they defeated teams from North Charleston, Orangeburg, and Bluffton in the finals. Then this win then sent them to the state tournament in Florence, South Carolina to represent the Southern District on March the 8th. The team won their first game against Florence and played the Central Division champion Columbia team in the finals, which was a real back-and-forth game which required our team to come from behind for an exciting win. The coaches for this team are Leonard Davis, Mario Drayton, and Darrell Capleton, and the team roster is Jaden Brown, Marquise Simmons, James Maxwell, Cameron Davis, Jalen Brown Singleton, Deshaun Capers, Jamorian Roper, Kevin Brown, Dream Watson, and Gerald Perry. On behalf of the city, we'd like to congratulate you all and wish you continued success in the future. State champion, 11 and 12-year all-star team from Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah. Would you like to say a few words? Okay. Tell us about the experience.
It's a good experience, yeah. Which I'm pretty fortunate because this is my third one in 6 years. So I'm doing pretty good. I just want to thank Department of Recreation, Ms. Lori and Robin and all them, and for their support. Carlette, I don't know what Joe at. There you go. Wherever Joe say, we go. And I mean, you know, especially Joe and Carlette, I mean, they really take care of us. And we just want to thank you all for inviting us here today. And it's a great thing. Thank you all very much.
All right. We're very proud of you. Thank you. Did we get a picture together? Okay, tighten up, everybody. We're going to get a little picture together here. Lori, come up here and join us. Come on. Yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
You got a girl all-star.
We have a girl all-star on the team.
girls participate in boys basketball.
Yeah, and her name is?
Green Watson.
Miss
So come
Green
on.
Watson is
Okay, so
the young lady who's on
come
this
out front so we
all-star
can see the
team.
lady who's led to this championship.
All right. Thanks again. Congratulations. Way to go, man. Appreciate y'all coming. Dream, congratulations. Way to go. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach. So, next I'd like to introduce some amazing young students from the College of Charleston. They are part of the Charleston's Jewish Student Union, Hillel. And is Mark Swick with us today? And Samantha Krantz and Maddie Grossoff and whoever else y'all have, come forward, please. I know Samantha. So, y'all, this is an amazing young woman in honor of the many who had passed in the genocide of the Holocaust. She planted, and her classmates planted, what, over 1,000 daffodils last year?
Several thousands over 3 years.
Several thousand daffodils over 3 years. And I met them about a month ago, and they told me that they wanted to bring awareness to genocide. And so this month coming up we'd like to proclaim to be Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month, because even though you think about the Holocaust happening after World War II, we have to keep an awareness and education going. And we even saw in the world just 10 days ago the terrible mass killing of our Muslim brothers and sisters in New Zealand. And so we can't forget. So I have this proclamation. I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing, but I'll read a few highlights. Whereas the term genocide is used to describe a coordinated plan of action aimed at the destruction of the foundations of lives of national groups with the intent to annihilate a group by disintegrating political and social institutions, culture, language, and so forth. Whereas genocide and mass atrocities are crimes which have been perpetuated in countless instances before and after the Holocaust, including in Armenia, Cambodia, Bosnia, Rwanda, Sudan, Syria, Myanmar, and the United States through the displacement of indigenous peoples and the enslavement of African and African American peoples. And whereas as home to people who have endured genocide and mass atrocities in their countries of origin, the City of Charleston condemns all acts of genocide and identity-based violence and desires to counteract attitudes of intolerance, racism, anti-Semitism, hatred, and extremism that enable mass violence. Like I said, we saw this again just 10 days ago in this world. Whereas expert bodies have found that in order to prevent future genocides and mass atrocities, effective prevention measures must be implemented before a crisis erupts, and educating the public can help to protect individual rights and promote a culture of lawfulness and moral courage. And whereas educating the public about the nature and progression of mass violence from dangerous speech to genocide and commemorating victims and survivors of all forms of identity-based violence, including the adoption of a Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month resolution, are effective tools that will further these goals. Now, therefore, I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of City Council and our citizens, do proclaim April 2019 to be Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month in the City of Charleston. And thank you. Let me present this to you. Mark, Samantha, would someone like to make a few words? Please introduce yourself.
I'm Maddie. And
I'm Samantha.
And we wanted to thank the City of Charleston and the mayor for always being so supportive and for helping us.
We'd also like to extend an invitation to you all for our event on April 4th at 6 p.m. in the Cistern Yard, and the rain location is the Rita Hollings Cancer building on campus, which is room 101. And this event is called Together We Remember. So it's bringing all of College of Charleston students and the campus and the Charleston community together to remember as one and to really call for action against all genocide. So we hope that you guys will join us next Thursday at 6 p.m. on campus. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for what you do. Maddie, thank you. Samantha, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mark. Thank you for being with us. All right. So finally, it was mentioned in Councilmember Seeking's prayer, I would like to further recognize a man recently passed this week, Julian Smith, who was a friend to all he met. I don't think he ever met a stranger, and if he ever met a person, I think he was instantly their friend. He had that kind of warm personality. He became a fixture of Charleston and representing us for years as the executive director of the Cooper River Bridge Run. He was an ambassador for Charleston as he helped establish similar runs, marathons, and events around the world and particularly around the country. And if I may call on Councilmember Seekings to share a few remembrances about our good friend Julian Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, those of you might have noticed there were some packets left on your chairs tonight from the Bridge Run, which actually is occurring on Saturday, April 6th at 8 a.m. In that packet is not a number, so any of you who'd like to run, I'd like to invite you to be my guest. We'll get you a number. If you can be at the start line at 8 o'clock, we'll all do it together. So last Friday, Julian Smith, who was my friend, and that puts me in a very large subset of people in the world, passed away at the age of 67. He was, if you did not know him, both literally and figuratively larger than life. As the mayor noted, there was not a stranger in his world, and his world came to an end all too soon. But what he did in this community is amazing. I mean, you can look at the Bridge Run. It started with humble beginnings of 1,000 people. He's been running it for 25 years. It is now the biggest community event that we've got in this area, in the state, really in this region, maybe in the United States. But more so than a Bridge Run, he was an integral part of this community that people looked up to, me being one of them. He was a true friend and leader, and I can tell you he will be sorely missed. There's no replacing Julian Smith, but he will never be far from all of our thoughts and our prayers. His family has been amazing through all of this. He lived his last day as if it was his first. He was a fighter. He died of glioblastoma, which, as you all know, is a rough way to go. But if you'd seen him 2 weeks before, he was still as optimistic and as full of life as anyone in the world. So tomorrow from 1 to 4 at James A. McAllister Funeral Home, there will be a visitation, and then tomorrow night from 6 to 8 at the Hibernian Society. Please come and join in the celebration of the life of Julian Smith. For those of you who knew him and want to participate in keeping his memory alive, the Hollings Cancer Center was very involved in both his life and the life of the Bridge Run, and in the community. Donations there will be greatly accepted. Let me just say, I can tell you just on a personal note, I spent many an hour, day, week of my life with Julian Smith, traveling all over literally the world. And he lit up a room like no one ever did. We'd all like to be able to be that, and I just was happy to have been following him as he lit up this world, and he will be greatly missed. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prayers for Julian as he passes on, and we will all see him at the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So next order of business, we have 4 public hearings this evening, and I'm betting Mr. Morgan is going to present those to us. The first is simply an ordinance regarding setbacks on as part of the Daniel Island Master Plan, but I will turn it over to you, Mr. Morgan, for further explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have a few slides that kind of exemplify this proposed amendment that's number E1. This is amendments to the Daniel Island Master Plan and the visual buffer zone that's at the back of some lots up against the marsh areas on Daniel Island. There's some images here. These are some lots that had already been subdivided that had their delineation of their critical area at the back of the lot or side of the lot had expired. And so they were going to have to alter how they could be developed, and what we are looking at doing instead is having a slight modification to the visual buffer zone that lets the distance of that visual buffer zone diminish slightly by a few feet, provided that the mitigation can be having the vegetation fit within that narrower area. Instead of 10 feet, it might be 8 feet or whatever, but you still have the same amount of vegetation, so in effect, you have the same kind of visual buffer that you would have had anyway. This is just an image here that shows plats that were approved at a time in the past. This is a delineation on these plats of July of 13, and it just lasts for 5 years. So of course these lots, that has expired, and so that's part of the reason for this. This is a subject lot that shows how the visual buffer zone works, and the amendment could work on the site. And just some other examples in the area. Not a lot of lots are affected by this, but this saves having to have a lot of individual variances before the BZA. So our staff was very comfortable with this, feel it's a very minor amendment in general, and recommended approval, as did the Planning Commission, and now it comes before you.
All right, would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Hearing none, it comes to council. We have a motion to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 2.
Okay, and this is another very minor amendment. This is related to the MU1 and MU2 workforce housing districts. This is an amendment that allows, that clarifies how fee and lieu can work with condo type units in those in those projects, and this has already come before you all for a first reading, and both staff and Planning Commission recommended approval, and now it comes to you for second reading tonight and public hearing.
All right. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. We got a second. Any discussion? Been working on this for some time.
Yep.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
So moved.
I note that was second reading. We need a third reading and ratification. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Number 3.
And this is in line with some of the amendments we're making for the opportunity zones. This was discussed by our Community Development Committee and then had a first reading before council. This is it's an amendment to the Upper Peninsula Zoning District that would require that we get actual workforce units if a building is over 4 stories in height. Right now, it's just one of many things that people can earn their height through by providing workforce units. And this would say that if you're going to go above 4 stories, you've got to actually have the workforce units. And this is something we thought was very important to get implemented as we're seeing the opportunity zones come into the city. Almost the entire, I believe the entire Upper Peninsula District is in the Opportunity Zone area, so we thought it was something that should be moving forward with as much speed as possible to allow for those investments. And both the staff and the Planning Commission endorsed this amendment, and it is before you tonight for the public hearing.
All right. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir.
My driving license. Mr. Ryan, please. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it for the formality. This is a real serious issue for me to be here. This is where I grew up at. This is my physical address. The U.S. This is Supreme Court Clerk Scott S. Harris sent this to me, right? So this is my driver's license here, right? Cortland Avenue, right here. This is my address, so I can talk about this issue really seriously. Tim Scott was on county council in enterprise and empowerment zones. The opportunity zones, in my opinion, I missed the public comment in the Department of Treasury. The zones run throughout the whole country, throughout the whole Fourth Circuit, West Virginia all the way down. The enterprise and empowerment zone, somebody benefited from that. Developers benefited from that. Now, you're going to approve it, of course, but I guarantee you, based upon the price points in this area, you're talking about prices are extremely high in this area now. And I'm gonna shout somebody out real quick. Keith Waring, don't want to take credit for this, but years ago, before it got this high, Keith Waring sat with Tim Keene and discussed something called, say, a put fund, and trying to keep people in our neighborhoods in their homes because of tax implications, because of increased property values. He never took credit for that, ever, ever. So we're looking at our area where I grew up at. I'm talking about me as an individual, not as a group, as an individual. So I'm very vulnerable as an individual, believe that. So what I'm telling you is this opportunity zone needs to be able to create low-income housing, not workforce housing, low-income housing. If it's the housing authorities with their issues they're having right now, either look at that. Look at all those properties right now and all the properties owned by the state and federal government that they own. Like St. Ports Authority doing a hotel right now. That's state property. State property flipped over to the developer for a hotel. We need to be about these opportunity zones mitigating what didn't happen in the enterprise and empowerment zone. You can ask our mayor regarding the Magnolia project that failed. And EPA money, the $2 million are left. So we want to make sure that these zones reflect what they're intended to reflect. Not workforce housing, but low-income housing.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard on this matter? Hearing none, it comes before council.
Mr. Mayor, even with the Upper Peninsula, because the Upper Peninsula is most of the area that I represent, and even with approving this, I want to make sure that even when the developers come, I want to see exactly, when they say workforce housing, what's going to be the percentage, the AMI they're going to be using. Because most of them are using 80% to 150% of the AMI. And I need to still have some units that's going to be below that. I know it's going to be hard to get, but I'm going to have to bring it back to council. But we need to still have some units that's going to be in those particular housing, at least 60% of the AMI. It's not going any lower than that, I know that. But everybody is looking at economics now, and they want the higher price. But we have to look at that very seriously, because the Upper Peninsula is going to be the last area that we have in this city to do any big developing. So, and that's all the district I represent. I really don't want them to kind of wipe me out anyway. Wipe the district out to the people living in that area. Because we're going up higher, they can go up to 12 stories and things like that. But we're going to have to hold these developers' feet to the fire too on this, because they're coming in our city to do this development. And we need it for tax break, but we still need to have people staying here that can afford, like our firemen, the policemen, and teachers, and everyone else. And some people who wants to come back in the city, who left the city because they couldn't afford to stay here. So very seriously, when this comes back, I want to see those developers, and I want to really sit down and talk with them when they come and start developing.
Right. Councilmember Lewis.
Mr. Mayor,
Point of order, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second? Someone second? Okay,
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
As I said in the Community Development Committee, I'm not too enthused about this zone, but because it was drawn by federal government and state government, not city council, we really don't have a lot of leverage to see what we're going to do in this zone. But we know that the developers is going to benefit from this zone. It's not going to be the people that's living in the city of Charleston. Because if you're looking at all the development right now that's going on in the Upper Peninsula and around Columbus Street and all that area down there, those developers are going to benefit. We're not going to benefit from it.
Right.
So I'm not too enthused about it.
Councilmember Lewis and council, if I may share with you, the matter here is about the Upper Peninsula.
I know it's about the Upper Peninsula,
It
but
includes the Opportunity Zone, but that matter will come before us in just a little bit when we talk about our Community Development Committee
understand that, but
report.
just,
Okay.
thank you.
Just making sure we understood that. Because prior to this ordinance coming forward, unless you requested a MU2 zoning, there was no requirement for affordability or workforce
I think we
housing
just blowing smoke with this too. We're not gonna get nothing out of this.
in the Upper
The developer's
Peninsula.
gonna get something out of this, but people in Charleston is, although we're gonna approve the zone, I just don't feel it's gonna help us.
All right.
But, you know.
Councilmember Jackson had her hand up, and then Shade.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have to associate myself with my colleagues, Councilmember Mitchell and Lewis, and the gentleman who addressed us during the public hearing. I know that we're trying to put the best opportunity, not to use that word, the best circumstance on the reasons that we have master planned the Upper Peninsula to be some of the tallest and most dense properties that we're going to be zoning and permitting over the next several years. And I do appreciate that we're trying hard to include affordable units in these developments. I'm just concerned that it's a finite proposition, and we don't have that much land, and we don't have those many, buildings that are going to be coming under this regulation. And so to keep our percentage at a 10% amount of the total units that we're going to be permitting under this increase of density just bothers me. I said my piece during Community Development Committee. The majority of the committee wanted to put this forward to the council, and so I don't think that we've got a chance right now to make it any more robust, but I would hold that place that I think we need to keep looking at this and keep understanding, as Councilmember Mitchell has said, case by case, what we're going to be asked to approve with these individual development applications.
Thank you. Councilmember Shade.
This is more of a question, Mr. Mayor, for Mr. Morgan. If you could refresh my memory, these units that are set aside,
yes, sir,
they will be timed out after 20 years?
I believe these go to, Ms. Shaw Johnson. How many?
Two people on staff and they can't answer questions.
Yeah, because it kicks back to our other part of our
between 2020
workforce housing section, and I think Ms. Johnson is coming up.
Christopher, it was my understanding in City Council that rental was 30 units, ownership was 90 years.
Right, because it goes back to our other ordinance that's
90.
Standard.
Rental. How many years?
On the rental units, it was 30 years. On for sale units, 90 years, 90.
Thank you.
Yes, a different part. That's what the reference is here, the section 54-290.
Councilmember Shade.
Is there a way to convert the rental units into owner occupied?
Not, I mean, this is all done at the time of permitting. You're allocating which units are going which way, so I don't think you would be able to change it at that time if you're using them as your credited workforce units.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important for us to note that even though this is in the federal government opportunity zone, the zonings and subsequent rezonings is within the power of city government. The federal government doesn't come in here and zone this property, and that would be the period of time to negotiate even further. So I feel the same way you do, Councilman Lewis, because it was Councilman Lewis that pointed out to all of us that this Upper Peninsula is in fact the last frontier if there's going to be any affordable housing created for the people that work in this city and quite frankly run this city. The faceless people, but they get it done. So when the rezoning opportunities come, that is in fact the opportunity to negotiate further for affordable housing. So that's institutional knowledge that needs to be passed on from not only this council, but the councils that will come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now, number 4, Mr. Morgan.
And this is an amendment related to parking for churches, allowing parking for churches in conservation and residential zones, provided that conditions are met, such as landscaping and location of the parking being approved by the staff, but it makes it a little bit easier for the churches to use residential zones and conservation districts for parking, and both staff and Planning Commission recommend approval.
All right. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
I want to thank Keith Waring for that ordinance for our church. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Waring. We have a motion. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter? I saw Reverend Gordon here. I didn't know if he was coming to speak on this matter. You're good? All right. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Who made the motion? Okay. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad to see that this is done. I know my colleague, Councilman Waring, brought it to the floor, but I'm glad to see it's happening because, why I'm saying that, because we lost a lot of black churches, African-American churches, for that same reason. And 2 of them, I think, was in my district. And one is on Spring Street, one is on, was the Shiloh AME Church. They moved because of that same reason, because the parking facilities. One time, they didn't have a problem parking because Smith Street was all African-American at one time. And people look at me funny, but I said the problem wasn't there until the influx of other people moving into the area, and they start calling the parking enforcement officer on the church people, and they start calling the policemen on them if their car back tire touched the yellow line, and they were getting tickets all over the place. And so they got tired of it, and when they come to the board meetings, they get tickets. So they end up moving and selling the church. And that church was built because they were out of that church during Hugo. The church was destroyed, and it was a new church that was built after Hugo. And they end up moving out. And they still have to go and now build another church, you see. And it's ridiculous because one thing with us, we hold that a church, when people go to church, is sacrament to us. That's the way the African-American community was. And they never had a problem in the area. But soon as the influx of people coming in, and they may get angry, but they'll be all right, then the people had a problem in the church. And I spoke about this on council many times because I didn't like it. You see, and now they move away and we lose that particular church, we lose the one on Spring Street church, and then we got some other churches that we're looking at losing in this peninsula. We're going to call it the Holy City. No, there ain't going to be no Holy City. You see, because most of the churches are going to be moving out of here because of that same reason. So maybe this might help. We got Macedonia is leaving, and that's another church, African-American church in my district also. So hopefully this might help, and I hope that we abide by it and we let everyone know that this is the case for churches. And also when they're having their board meetings, they might have it once a week. They might have choir rehearsal. We're going to let the parking enforcement officer know to be lenient with the church people when they're having those meetings. Because otherwise, I'm going to bring it right back to the council and we're going to have a problem.
Councilmember Griffin.
Well, I just want to kind of touch on your statements there. They were just spot on, and we do a great job of helping everybody in Charleston. We help developers, we help tourists. It's about time we actually stood up for what our name is, the Holy City. And it feels good when we actually do something good for the people that made our city great, our residents, our churchgoers. Sunday is still sacred in Charleston. And we don't want to ever lose that title of the Holy City. So we have to definitely respect and honor our people going to so many great services all over this city. And anytime that we have an opportunity to get more people to have faith in our Lord. This is a great, great ordinance, and we need to look out for all the people that are going on Saturdays, Sundays, whenever, to join any congregation in our holy city.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilmember Waring.
Thank you. I want to thank the staff for working through this one on us, legal, traffic and transportation committee and department heads. This was one that came before us, actually it was November of 2017. So that's how long it's taken to get this one. You know, I don't want to be facetious, but inside I really do want to say hallelujah. So this is good, but I think we can actually reflect on some of the parking zones, in particular what Councilman Mitchell was talking about. On Sundays in some other districts, you get to park if you're there for the religious hours. As a matter of fact, I have some of those pictures of the signs that say that, in particular on, I think it's Hazel Street and I think Wentworth Street. And those type signs need to be placed not only in those areas, but in particular streets where you have sanctuary zones. So we can do better, but thank you so much for bringing this forward so we can pass this today. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your leadership on this matter. Yes, sir. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, our minutes have been deferred. We hadn't quite gotten them ready for you yet, so we're going to bring those back to the next meeting. So next up is our citizens' participation. We got 10 or a dozen folks. So I'm going to ask everyone to keep it to 2 minutes, please. And Madam Clerk will call out your names. Please state your name and address when you come to address us. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll begin with Muhammad Idris, followed by Anthony Bryant, Ade Afunian, also known as Dr. O, LaShaya Ombre, and Joanna Carrington.
Evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Council, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, I would like to bring to your attention an article that I saw in the Post-Courier. It said, music therapists in tune with children. Now, if you look at that word, you think that's a doctor. But it said the music, the rapists in tune with our children. This article here said that the music is destroying our children. And they act like they just found that out. The sex music that being blasted through the street daily. What they are saying now, it is affecting the higher up children because they have to listen at the same thing every day. So I hope that you all could do something to work with these people to stop the music as it is on TV, radio, and the video games, etc. Also, I'd like to say, you have made a great change. Councilman Louis been there for a long time, and I remember the former mayor saying that they can go no higher than 3 stories on the peninsula with buildings. I don't know what you're all drinking.
Thank you, sir.
40% of this state is poor and cannot afford to retain legal counsel from Charleston to Charleston, West Virginia. And that's just a fact through my experience. But what I would say, in terms of my detractors in this experience, being a true Charlestonian, in terms of reading, you should read treatises of the human nature by David Hume, dialogues concerning natural religion, history of England, theory of moral sentiment by Adam Smith, and inquiry into the nature and causes and wealth of nations. Edmund Hume wrote this, Sketches of the Negro Code by Edmund Burke, written 1780-82. there's another serious one by Burke, A Plan for Better Security of Interdependent of Parliament and Economical Reformation of Civil and Other Established Statements. The reason why I said that is because true Charlestonians know their history, real ones. And every one of them were white men against slavery. That's black history as well. A true Charlestonian knows that. You have to get up and pontificate and talk in contemporary terms regarding their faith system. Your faith system is in your deeds, not in your words. That's what my grandfather taught me. So when people pontificate all the time about their faith system, then the application is not there. You don't see it in the data. You don't see it in our humanity toward each other. It's discontent regarding dogma. We have to begin to be about the business of taking care of folk again. Our Supreme Court is too busy for poor people. They're too busy for poor people. Point blank, if you poor and black, you poor and white, you poor Hispanic, you out. You got no government. We got to retake the government the right way through our participation in the process. Come to meetings, get involved, stay involved. I don't care if you got to come to the meeting anyway, you have to be an expert. The Army Corps of Engineers is doing what they got to do to affect our community. We got to stand up for our community for fighting too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rowe.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, everyone else in the room. My name is Adeo Funian, and I'm with the Gullah Society, and you might have seen me and other members of the Gullah Society on the news several times this week talking about the reinternment of the bones on Anson Street. And I've stood before council once before talking about those bones on Anson Street and the reinternment of those bones. And I believe that this evening the mayor is suggesting a proclamation for the reinternment of those bones. Sitting here this evening, just listening to some of which some people had to say about our beloved city, the holy city as we call it. And when I consider these bones that are to be reinterred, and when I consider the many burial grounds that I've had the experience of walking over the last couple of years that have been neglected, overgrown, that have highways that have been built over them, buildings that have been built over them, and the large percentage of these burial grounds are of African and African descended people. But, you know, there are some burial grounds that Confederate soldiers are in and others are in that are well kept and maintained. And so I listen to people talk about the conditions that we as Charlestonians find ourselves in.
Time.
I can save my time to talk about it.
Thank you. Yeah. We find ourselves in because, as it's been said by others here, we don't seem to have passion for each other, or compassion for each other. And, you know, several months ago, I stood in the same chamber as the mayor was suggesting that the city of Charleston apologize for slavery. And, you know, that was a motion that was not fully received by council. And, you know, to me, it speaks to where we are as a city. And unless we change that, posterity, future generations will be in this chamber if we're still on planet Earth, dealing with issues that are far worse than the ones that we are dealing with today. And so I don't know what council is going to say in regards to the mayor's proclamation. I hope that it's positive and affirmative. But I encourage
council and those who are policymakers, and to really pay attention to what the citizens of Charleston are saying to you. And when I say citizens of Charleston, I include everybody, but some of people are come years, and some of us are been years, and some of us have stayed here. So when we have people who are coming here and are causing and creating situations that are causing...
Time.
Thank you.
I yield my time.
Well,
Thank you.
this is not intended to be a...
No. I just have one other thing to say.
Please.
I'm not filibustering.
Please wrap up, Dr.
I'm not filibustering.
I understand.
You know, our people are suffering. And unless you pay attention to their suffering, I don't care how many police chiefs you hire or who you bring in to solve our problems, unless we pay attention to the problems that our people here are faced with, we're not a holy city.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, I think we could make a decision whether we're going to let people take other people's time.
That's right.
Because we've never allowed that before.
Well, I have allowed it on occasion,
Yes.
and it...
Some people and others, we need to have, we either need to do that or we need to not do that.
Well, it's, I hear you. Let's move on with
Okay, so-
whoever's next. That was
Mrs. Carrington?
That was Miss Carrington.
Okay, so let's see, we had Lachey.
She yielded her
Okay.
time as well.
All right, let's see who we have after that.
Number 6.
Yes, Ralph Carrington.
You see my time is Carrington.
Okay.
We're going to ask you if you've signed up to please speak for yourself, and I'd be happy to have you come and speak for yourself. Yeah. For the
All
rest.
right, Quadre Stuckey.
Would you like to address the council? You've signed up to speak.
Do you want me, can I come up there and speak for myself?
No.
Do you use all of my time?
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
My name is Quadre Stuckey. I'm a local native here in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, actor, and everything. I'm a part of Gullah Society. I'm the next generation. I've been working with Dr. O and the group, and we've been doing a lot of great things with the Gullah Society. And I was going to say, I hope if y'all take the time out of your day to come out to our celebration on May 4th, 2019, we'll have the reinterment going on. We'll have like a parade, culture, you know, festivals, pretty much the unity for the whole city. So we want everybody to come out, support, and show love, and show everybody what the holy city is really about. Because it's all about the bigger picture of, you know, love conquers all. So we just kind of want to bring everybody together and paint a bigger picture. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask a privilege. Ms. Carrington did sign up to speak. She attempted to yield her time, and that wasn't allowed. I would hope you and council would allow Ms. Carrington to speak. These people have actually done some good work.
They've done great work.
Great work following.
Yeah.
I can tell you they've done what we didn't.
Right.
These are salt of the earth people over here. We would allow Ms. Carrington to have whatever the time is allowed.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Let's walk down through, finish the list, and I'd be happy to recognize Ms. Carrington.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, so we'll have Jason Taylor, Esquire, and Denitria Smith.
Mr. Council, Mr. Mayor, ladies of the council, may it please the council. I'm Jason Taylor. I live at 14 Carolina Street. I don't have a district. I have a community. What has happened in our community is deplorable. Based on Team 1's own reports, which I'll exhibit A, 22 significant crimes. Team 2, in the same period, 2 significant crimes. We have Drew Somerville, household break-in, middle of the daytime. We have another one, another break-in, door handle pullers. We have meetings with my neighbors with Chief Reynolds. The issue is community policing. I'm a Charlestonian. Chief Greenberg was on rollerblades in the neighborhood on skates. We are citizens of this community, and we demand community policing, we demand responsiveness, and we demand accountability. Now, I myself am here on community members that work. Miss Natalie Hudson from North Central. The police department has not showed up for their neighborhood association meeting. In the West Side, we have not had the police show up since 2019 to the neighborhood association. We are now tracking on cameras the absence of a police presence on the West Side and in the Hampton Park Terrace area and North Central, and the crime correlates to that. The absence of police on the street, the isolation of police, is all Chief Reynolds' policy. In his own department, he wants a 2018 pledge to end DUI fatalities with pedestrians. 2 officers arrested for DUI allowed to resign. 1 fails dirty on a drug test, allowed to resign. Policing starts within the department, and we demand accountability, we demand transparency, we demand the department to put to the CNA Mr. Rhodes' case and answer my 17 emails and phone calls. Mr. Marshall Walker, who I'm also here for, has offered to host a meeting. I know Chief Reynolds met with Mr. Arthur Lawrence and Ms. Audrey Lisbon, who spoke here about community policing and what we knew growing up in Charleston, which were the police were our friends.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Demetria Smith.
Demetria?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Demetria Smith, and I'm a maintenance technician at Mercedes-Benz Vans. I'm a native here of North Charleston, and I'm really honored to be here, and it's just a pleasure. And I'm just so optimistic about Charleston carrying our name, the Holy City. I don't think I've ever heard of any other city in our nation that carries that name, and I'm just so excited about us walking and wearing our suit well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carrington, would you like to speak to us? And we'd love to have you. Yeah.
And thank you too, Councilman. Not very long ago, and if you haven't heard anything about it, under the Gilliard reconstruction project was located 36 bodies. Those 36 bodies, and of course you're hearing this word DNA over and over and over again now. And we're beginning to recognize a lot of things from the word DNA. And what we found out about those persons, those bones, that they came from around Sierra Leone and other parts of Africa, and it came around the 1700s, which means there were a lot of us here in that period of time. When we started doing the DNAs and finding out a lot of things about those bones that they found under the building, we also found out that many of us may be related to those people. I'm a native Charlestonian, born almost 88 years ago, and I may be a relative to those persons that they found. We put out, when we found and did the DNA, we put out the information and asked people if they want to find out if this is some people that they may be related to. And the response was 11,000 persons want to know. You guys know, I guess, if you followed up all of this, that not very long ago they found a lot of bodies in New York City. And they found like 410 buried bodies on that famous Fifth Avenue area in New York. Charleston liked to talk about its history. Here you guys got a chance again to talk about the history. Some of the things that Dr. O spoke about before, and the time that the mayor came up and did the apology for the enslavement of persons from Africa. These people came in the 1700s. We don't know what kind of history Charleston will get out of that. But we know there's an opportunity to do something well, to find out where we all came from. I thank you for listening to us, and I surely hope that on the 4th of May, you will be there to cheer this on as you do another part of the history of Charleston. The Holy City, we'll find out how much of that that goes back way beyond what we all hear of how long we've been on this earth. So you get a chance to create that, and I hope you take advantage of it. I hope you support this. I hope you're there to see the thing that we never thought we would find in Charleston, the creation of people who've been here way before we came, who you may be related to. And I thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Would anyone else who yielded time like to be heard, please come forward. It's absolutely fine. Would you like to be heard?
My name is Lachey Oubre, and we are the Gullah Society. We've hosted Rodney Leon from the New York Burial Ground, who created the most admirable memorial for the 410 people that were there. And we're hoping that in Charleston, a memorial for the 36 and all of the others that are buried here will also be allowed to be built and created and displayed in our city of Charleston. The artist you see here, Quadre, what we did is we called out on the young people of Charleston so that they can understand what their history is. We have worked with and created art with children from kindergarten all the way to college. And I hope that you all will be able to come out on May 4th to be part of this historical procession, which is going to begin at the College of Charleston Cistern and come all the way down George Street. And on May 5th, we're going to hold a ecumenical service of many different faiths to show that we are the Holy City, as we say that we are, at St. John's Reformed Church at 4 o'clock. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have these for the council.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Would anyone else who didn't sign up like to be heard? Mark, you feeling all right?
Whoa.
Yes, sir.
That I said earlier, and I did not mean any disrespect whatsoever to the Gullah Society. I think that every one of you should have been given ample time to speak, and honestly, I don't think 2 minutes is enough anymore. Our citizens are what make our city great. We shouldn't put a time limit on them anymore. That's what I was trying to say.
Well, thank you very much. We have a lot of business to conduct. Okay, that will be the end of our citizens' participation. I'll recognize him in just a moment. Can I have order, please? Did we have one more gentleman that would like to be recognized? Please come forward.
My name is Grant Mishu, and I'm the genealogist and historical researcher for the Gullah Society. And I've been doing slave cemeteries and African American cemeteries for about 30 years. I'm a retired firefighter from North Charleston. And to say that the African American cemeteries in the Charleston Peninsula have gotten a raw deal is an understatement. From Pittsburgh Avenue to the tip of the Battery is roughly 4 square miles. In that 4 square miles, minus one cemetery that you have in that paperwork, there's 93 cemeteries in 4 square miles. Of those cemeteries, 28 are white, 60 are black, and there's the 6 public cemeteries that were run by the city. Originally, the ones in original condition are 16 of the white, 20 of the black, and none of the public cemeteries, all the public cemeteries with the exception of one, are now buildings, streets, parking lots, or a football stadium. You have one cemetery still left that's owned by the city in West Ashley, and it's a trash dump and completely overgrown. That's still owned by the city. The ones that are gone is 12 of the white cemeteries, 35 of the African American cemeteries, and all 5 of the public cemeteries in the peninsula. That's 52 out of 94. Percentage-wise, that's 23% white, 67% of the African American cemeteries in Charleston are gone. My family owned slaves. My family's been here since 1687. They're French Protestants. My family owned slaves. And working with Doc is my way of giving back. I absolutely love doing this, and these cemeteries need to be recognized. There's a problem that needs to be taken care of. You don't see them building I-26 through Magnolia Cemetery. but they're certainly built right next to the cemeteries on Monrovia Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, our next order of business is petitions and communications. Councilmember Shade, and then Waring.
They had talked about the citizens who spoke about this May 4th and 5th event. Are there details about these events that we can be passed on to us? All right. Thank you
for sharing that. Councilmember Waring.
May I like to go back? The citizen that came up and complained negatively about our police chief was wrong. We have one of the finest police chiefs in America, and I know you know that, and all 12 of us know what went into that. And the effort that he's putting forth creates the environment for people to come to the microphone and speak freely in a negative way, in a civilized environment. But that shouldn't be passed without, that shouldn't be allowed to go without being addressed. Now, a lot of times, believe me, we have to have thick skins because we asked for this job. But when we hire people to protect a community, as we've done and recruited Chief Reynolds and his team, we have the largest municipal police force in the state of South Carolina. There's none better than the one that we have. So you were wrong, but you had the right to do it. Now it's my time to speak. I just want to set the record straight on that, Mr. Mayor, and hopefully, I know our council and you feel the same way.
Thank you, and I could not agree more. Thank you very much. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was alluding to the same thing. That's why I was watching and waiting. And I know we don't have everybody against anyone who comes and speak, but when they talk about the police chief that way, you know, it got next to me because I work with him a lot, and I can call him, anyone else can call him on a daily basis, and he will be there. So far as the community is concerned, we have officers working in the community. I'm on the east side of town, and if I call them, they'll be there. Community have to take care of community sometime and make calls and come and let people know what's going on. You can't wait for the police to come and do everything. So when people talking about the police is not there, it's not there, I live in North Central, and I've been in North Central probably over 40 years, 40-some more years. And the officers up and down that street, up and down King Street, up and down Hughes Street, all these streets, they're there. So I don't know what somebody's saying if they don't see the officers there, but they're there. But the officers are spread out in certain areas and other areas too, because everybody else wants them too. So what are you going to do, hire a million officers, and that's not going to do any good? People have to be about their business. You know, so I took really a backslap when I heard that, and the chief is having all these different meetings throughout the community. He goes to different churches to meet with different churches. He's been to my church many times. And he always going to the church to meet and have dialogue with the people in the community to find what's going on, you see? So I took a really slap in the face when the individual came up here and said, listen, I know this place here because this is my home. I'm about to come here. I've been here all the time. You know, I might have left there with New York, with the NYU, but I came back here to Charleston, been here. And I always tell everyone, my colleagues know this, 14 years old, I got arrested 25 times, 14 years old, in the civil rights movement right here in the city. This is not the way the city was, Charleston was. So we made a difference, and we're looking for other people to carry us on, young people to carry us on and make a difference also. So when people come and slap it in the face like that, I took a back step to that, and it bothered me. So I had to say something.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Jackson, then Moody.
Thank you. I too want to associate myself with your statements, council members, in disagreement that we have a police chief that is not doing the work that we're asking of our officers. I think maybe this is a good time to just make a brief announcement, Mayor, about the community input sessions that are taking place this week. So I didn't bring the actual schedule, but I know that there are 4 or 5 scattered around all boroughs of the city. So maybe we can do that before we adjourn the meeting tonight and get it on the record. The publicity has been very thorough. The neighborhood services have sent out their own announcements. The police communications officer has blasted it out 2 or 3 times. I think people are putting it on their next door networks, but it would be good in light of the discussion that we just have heard that we are going to have a chance for anyone who wants to come out across the city to give their input on how we're doing with our policing.
Absolutely. Councilmember Moody?
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Waring. He has the right to come forward, but I think we need to respond to this. My experience has been whenever we have a rash of violations, break-ins, stuff like that, we need to communicate. And I'm sure that there's probably a lack of communication going on here between these citizens and the police department, because I know the police respond. The problem is if people are not locking their cars, they're not locking their houses, they're not keeping their property safe, exactly what you were saying, there's a responsibility there. And I know that the police take every one of these violations seriously. They track them and they watch them every week. They watch all of those statistics. Every week the different teams have meetings and they go to those areas where they have problems. And that problem area moves all around this city. It's not reserved to downtown, I can tell you. We've had problems West Ashley in my district, and it involves the community getting involved. So my message to you, sir, is that, I mean, I don't know, maybe public safety, the committee could take a look at this stuff and let the chief come and respond, because I guarantee you'll find there's a lot of these statistics that are pointing right back at we need the community input. And it's not because of a lack or lack of diligence on part of our police force. And so we need to have that communication going on. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Remember, Waring, did you want to add anything else?
Just to point out that one of those community listening sessions are actually going on right now, West Ashley, at Bible Way Baptist Church. So just to your point, Ms. Jackson.
Well, Councilmember Lewis.
Mr. Mayor, I can tell you, every neighborhood organization meeting I go to, I always inform my team commander. He always try to make sure someone is there. Sometimes circumstances might not permit them to be there. But I know I was in Washington at my last North Central meeting, and I called Lieutenant Hawkins, and he's out sick. But he called me back, and he told me he'll have somebody at the meeting. And I wasn't there, but he usually responds when I call him. And if there's a problem in his district, he lives around the corner from me. He's running against me for city council. He can come and tell me he got problems. He can come and tell me he got problems, and I'll work on it, whether he's my opponent or not, but not coming in and badgering my chief, because I don't like that either. But I can tell you from self-experience, the police officers are always in District 3, especially around Sumter Street, Carolina Street, where he lived in that area. So I just want to set the record straight. I didn't want to say nothing because he was running against me, but I just couldn't sit here and just hold my peace.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. I'm going to add that I've had a lot of very good days serving as mayor. I love this job, but one of the greatest days I had as mayor was when Chief Luther Reynolds accepted the position of police chief of this fine city. And what I recognized about him was that he not only had the mind, the professionalism of policing, but he had the heart. He had the heart for the community policing and for our community, for our brothers and sisters. It's an amazing combination that we have in this chief, and we're really blessed to have him. Now, that being said, he recognizes, as we all do, that we all got room for improvement. We can all do a better job at whatever we're doing, and that's why we're so really proud to be engaged in this audit that the police department is engaged in right now. As was mentioned, they're meeting right now and every day this week, and I don't have the specific dates and times, but I believe it's every night this week, to allow for the kind of community input and we can read them off in a minute if y'all like, if you've got them right there. Yeah. I'll ask Madam Clerk to please read off those meetings so they'll be in the record.
We can.
council member. So March 26th is at the Bible Way Baptist at 2019 Savage Road from 6 to 8. On the 27th, St. James Presbyterian, 1314 Successionville Road from 6:30 to 8:30. The 28th, Burke High School, 244 President Street from 6 to 8. And then on the 29th at St. Julian Divine Center, 1 Cooper from 6 to 8.
So we urge our citizens to participate. All right, thank you all very much. Let's move along with our petitions and communications. First up is a resolution for the reinterment of the bones, the remains that were found at the Gilliard Center. And apparently when they were found, there was a public notice given that was required. We don't know that this is legally required, but now that we're at the point where we're prepared to reinter, we would like to just give this resolution a public notice that the bones, that the remains will be reburied, reinterred, and where they will be reinterred. And if I may add one sentence, because I want to acknowledge Dr. O, as he's affectionately known, and the Gullah Society, and they weren't specifically mentioned here. So I'd like to ask council to allow the addition of a sentence at the end of the second full paragraph where it's talking about the study and documentation to be done on the remains, to say, quote, said study, documentation, and planning for reinterment is being accomplished with the assistance and partnership with the Gullah Society, just so we acknowledge our partnership with the Gullah Society.
With the amendment.
For approval as amended, and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. O and the Gullah Society for your work. So next we have 5 different boards and commissions. I believe additional information has been sent out on request of individuals who had also applied online for the various positions, and also the attendance of the past meetings for these particular committees. We have a motion for approve 1 through 5. Councilmember Griffin.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you for that. I know it was probably not an easy task, but it was very, very helpful, and I appreciate you doing that for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Councilmember Moody.
I was going to ask Councilmember Lady Jackson about the only man that is on her committee that has kind of a bad attendance record. If she had a response to that.
I definitely have a response. That young man has been, he's a part-time student and he's a part-time worker, and he works at the nonprofit that I'm blanking on the official name, but they work on sexual harassment and I think it's the rape. They work on rape victims in terms of helping women go through that horrible process. But he has found a full-time job. This past year, when he had a weak attendance record, he was called home to be the primary caregiver for his older brother who was going through cancer treatment. So we gave him a sustained excuse.
All right. Councilmember Moody.
I said it somewhat in jest, and I didn't know what the reason was, but in looking through those attendants, there was a lot of them that were excused. And I don't know, there ought to be some instruction on all these committees. I understand when things happen and people can't attend a meeting, they call.
That's right.
And let them know so you're sure that you have a quorum and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think we ought to insist on all of these folks that they at least call in and announce that they're not going to be there.
Right.
I think that's just respectful.
Councilmember Shealy.
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention on that same committee, I think Michelle Hill had the longest perfect attendance record. She deserves that gold star. So.
Okay. I'll let Michelle know that. So without further discussion, to approve B 1 through 5, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So then just to briefly add on to the discussion about the attendance and reviewing and pulling together all that information and seeing what we might be able to do to be more transparent and more accountable. We plan to post online our attendance of these various boards and commissions. So, and also we have not been posting the minutes for the various boards and commissions and meetings, and we also plan to add the posting of the minutes for all of these organizations. Somebody's looking for a microphone. And in the future, when we bring recommendations to you, in addition to doing like we were doing with Robin, and now this time we'll share with you anybody else who did apply, number one, and we'll share with you the attendance as we did on this time. We'll make that a regular practice. All right, Councilmember.
I'm going to start this by footnoting one by saying I'm not trying to create any work for anybody, but if you're going to start posting minutes, can we get a list from the clerk's office as to which of the boards and commissions get minutes or don't? Because because there's a lot of boards and commissions that exist pursuant to our ordinances that don't keep minutes and I'm not asking to expand it. I don't know about, anyway.
I'm about to answer some questions because the clerk's office can't handle any more minutes, and we don't do every board and commission.
So, I mean, that's why you say you're going to post minutes of, we need to know who's got minutes and who doesn't.
Let me say
not all of them
the boards and commissions that we take minutes on, we will post them online.
Right.
Okay. Right. Councilmember Griffin.
Mr. Mayor, I think that's a great idea, and it's evident that we have people in the city that want to be on these boards and commissions.
Right.
And by being as transparent as possible, we're at least showing everybody why these people are serving on these boards. And also, having the minutes accessible comes in handy because a lot of these boards and commissions bring a lot of really important things to council. And by being able to look at those minutes, then our citizens understand why that is coming to us and what the thought process was for the board. So I think that's a great, great idea. These boards and commissions they make our city great, and they also bring a lot of the stuff that we vote on to the table here. So, a lot of the groundwork is laid in these boards, and I just want to be able to honor these people. And I want us to be able to get as many people involved as possible. And I think by being transparent, we're going to do that.
Thank you. All right. So next is our Councilmember Moody.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise one question. Some of these boards and commissions, like the Planning Commission and some of the other ones, the more or the bigger type commissions, have a continuing education requirement or some kind of training that's supposed to occur when these people are appointed. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is that the attendance at those things has not been all that.
You're correct. There are some boards that are required to do that by state, and a lot of them are planning commission related boards. And I would think that the planning staff would have the documentation. The clerk's office doesn't have documentation on it.
My understanding is that whoever is supposed to be attending those things, that some people have been on these commissions and have not done that. To me, that's just as important as being in the meeting as understanding what you're supposed to be deciding. I mean, what your rules are, what you're all about, and that's just my word of mouth. It may be completely wrong, but I would like to see something on that at some future meeting. And I can talk with planning if that's...
I can provide the information, but I think they would have to provide the documentation.
All right. We can do that. Yes, sir. So next is our council committee reports. First up is Committee on Public Safety. Councilmember Shade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Public Safety Committee met yesterday afternoon to take up two items. One was to receive a report on our civil sidewalks ordinance from Lieutenant Kelly, and then also to consider the amendment to King, apologize, amendment to Chapter 28, Section 45 of that particular ordinance, which essentially is just stretching the boundaries of the sidewalk ordinance. One block in either direction would exist on King and Broad and on North and South Market Street.
I move to approve the Public Safety Committee report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, the ayes.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, while I've got the microphone, Chief, would you just come forward for a second, please? I just want to add to the chorus of what was said and to publicly apologize for those comments made to you, Chief, and your police department and your troops. Chief and I talk on a regular basis. I interact with his superior staff members on a regular basis. They have responded to every question I've asked, every inquiry that I've had. Even a woman who called me today twice about azaleas being stolen from a garden next to her. The police came out there yesterday, talked to her. I'm so proud of this police department and so proud of, Chief, what you've done in just a short period of time. And I just want to take this opportunity for the record. It's very clear that we are moving in the right direction. And I just want to thank you and your staff for all that you have done and add to that course that was said earlier today.
I appreciate the support. I need the support. I can't do it without your support. We have a long ways to go. I'm humbled by that support. I'm not afraid of criticism. I understand that we have room for improvement. I promise you we have room for improvement. We're going to learn a lot from this audit, and we're going to make changes, and we're going to continue to get better, and we are committed to being accountable to our communities, to being transparent, to being men and women of integrity. And we're not perfect, but we are accountable. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here. As long as I'm here, I'm going to give this city my best, give the mayor my best, give the council my best. And I appreciate the support. We need that. We have a lot of important work to do. Our communities need us, and we can't do it without you. So we have a long ways to go. I tell our troops, I tell our command, we talk a lot about a lot of issues regularly. It's like a marathon, and we're not even halfway through the first mile. But we're pointing in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. So next is our Committee on Public Works, and Councilmember Griffin was conducting that, serving as chairman today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Public Works met today. It says 3. I introduced our new director to Harry Perry time. It started at 3:15. Director, would you like to speak a little bit? Just maybe give us an update on what you touched on today. This is Matthew Fountain. He was introduced at one of our previous meetings, but his first day was Monday. Was it last Monday?
Last Monday.
Last Monday.
Yes. Did you have any areas you want me to touch on specifically?
Just maybe just a brief synopsis of what you talked about.
I'll be glad to recognize our new stormwater director, Matt Fountain.
Basically, we reviewed a number of the projects we have going on, what the status is on those projects, and tried to set a good standard for providing regular updates, keeping everyone informed of what we've accomplished recently, what we have next planned for the project, and what the overall schedule for those projects are.
Amen.
Bringing AECOM on board with the project management, just went to Ways and Means today. That will be very helpful for letting us continue to move projects forward rapidly and let us help with our staff levels by kind of supplementing that through their contract.
Anybody have any questions for him or anything like that? Councilmember Lewis? Nope.
No, I'm happy.
I'll conduct
I'm just asking, Mr. Mayor. I didn't call
I understand.
on anybody.
After your report, I'll be happy to recognize
My report is
anybody.
concluded. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Next is our Committee on Ways and Means.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Yes, sir.
Point of order here, that item on the, it looks almost like it may be approved there, but that is the first item on the TIF district.
That's correct.
Just need the record to show that we're deferring that one also, not approving.
That's correct. Item number 7 on Ways and Means was deferred. Thank you very much. Let the record show that. All right. Now we have bills up for third reading. And I think that was deferred. Yep. So bills up for second reading, we have just item number 1.
Move for approval. L1.
This was regarding our lease purchase agreements. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Next, we have items up for first reading. I think we have 4 items up.
Move for approval 1 through 4.
We have a motion to approve all 4 items 1 through 4. This number 1 includes that opportunity zones matter. Okay, so any discussion on any of these? Councilmember Moody.
I was curious on number 4, why that particular one is needed. Do we have a problem, I was here earlier, a problem with blocking?
We do, yes, sir. It's been reported a number of times that this just, I think, clarifies our existing ordinance a little bit about blocking.
What are we going to do to correct this? I guess we're going to pass an ordinance, but you got to enforce it. So
that's right.
The Mauricio's going to be all those carriages riding around.
It's not fun being short, trust me. Yes, this is, well, you know, we have 6 tourism enforcement officers out in the streets 7 days a week, collectively. We do enforce all the ordinances of tourism, or all the issues in the tourism ordinance. The problem we had with this particular ordinance, it didn't clearly define blocking the sidewalk or entering the public right-of-way or roadway. So the officers would, we never approach anybody while they're on a tour, but after the tour is given and the guests leave, they approach the individual and they have been challenged by some tour guides that are attorneys that it would not apply and they're allowed to do what they're doing. So to give them the extra tools, we went ahead and clearly defined these, for safety reasons, blocking the sidewalk, because a lot of them leave the sidewalk and enter a roadway in front of a vehicle. So that's basically why we did that.
Well, that was really my question. I didn't want to go to hanging a number around a tour guide like we do, sending them off. I mean, we're just trying to get them to stay to the side and kind of manage their...
Exactly. We never even, any carriage tour, any tours, we never approach during the tour. For one, it's not safe. 2, it's... we don't want to set a bad...
It sends the wrong message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wrong message. So.
All right, Councilmember Jackson.
I'm just curious. I've just been thinking about how you would get the word out to, you know, be able to plan that this will be a good change to our ordinance. Do we keep a database of the licensed tour guides? Do we communicate with them regularly through our services?
We won't say licensed. We'll say volunteer registration.
Right. Yes.
Let's be clear on that.
Known to the city.
Yes, we do. And it's a voluntary registration.
Yes.
And yeah, we do. We have very good communication with the Tour Guide Association. We attend their meetings. We have constant communication. If we have a concern, we even after the fact that we are not able to particularly identify a certain tour guide, we will seek help through the Tour Guide Association, and they're very helpful. And again, this was enacted for that 1% that really wasn't following the rules and challenging the ordinance. And I had just as many complaints from other tour guides as we did from our own officers and other citizens. So it wasn't like everyone's against tour guides. It was strictly for the be safe in the community.
Yeah, I just was assuming that we could have a way of being proactive to get the word out.
Absolutely. And they know, this went to the Tourism Subcommittee and the Tourism Commission, and that was explained to them. They have representatives there, and we also have attended their meetings and explained that to them.
Any other questions for items 1 through 4? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, April 9th. Any further business to come before us? Hearing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.